Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. We are live, so get involved in the chat and the comments, and make sure, if you're not doing already, you are hitting that like, share, and subscribe button. We want to get to 700, no we don't. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers, and with your support, we can get there. Loads of stories to get through. As you may have guessed from the thumbnail, we're going to be talking a little bit about Gareth Southgate not picking Kobbie Mainoo, because there's big news there from David Ornstein and others about who's going to start for England against Slovenia tonight. It doesn't look like Mainoo is going to be in the starting 11. Now, if you want reasonable, nuanced, analytical debate around that subject, don't watch this, because I've pretty much lost my mind on this one. I think Kobbie Mainoo should be starting for England. I think anyone that thinks otherwise is wrong and stupid, so I'll be getting into that. Also, we're talking about some transfer news, so we'll kick off with a bit of that. JoshuaXY is a name that's been on a lot of United fans' lips over the last few weeks, and we've been heavily linked with him. You can see this here on the Manchester Evening News website, their Transfer Live sort of update thing they do every day. It says, Man United remain hopeful of completing a move for Bologna forward JoshuaXY, whose transfer release clause, approximately 34 million, becomes active on July the 1st. Now, there was some sort of, back and forth or rumours and reports about whether United were going to be happy to work with Keane. I think he's the agent for JoshuaXY, and pay him apparently he wanted about 15 million quid, I think it was, or 15 million euros. That has been lowered according to reports. So it looks like United could do this. There were some suggestions that he might want to stay at Bologna, but we'll have to wait and see how this pans out. I think there's a little bit in it there on the Manchester Evening News website. I was talking to Joe, who's doing producer duties today, earlier, and we were chatting about XY, and I was hoping to see a bit of him at the Euros, if I'm being honest. Now, I always say you can't buy a player off an international tournament. You should never go, oh yeah, he's had a good tournament, let's buy him. 3 words, Karol Poborski. I remember him well. But it's nice to have a look at someone you've not seen a lot of, innit? Because you can go, okay, yeah, let's see what he's about. Let's see what type of player he is. Dude, I've not watched loads of Bologna. I'm not going to pretend I have. But he's not really got a look in, has he, for the Netherlands? They prefer Cody Gakpo. They prefer Memphis Depay. And even Wout Weghorst is their go-to guy, or Ronald Koeman's go-to guy off the bench. So we've not really seen a lot of him. 34 million, his numbers are decent. I think he scored 11 goals in Serie A last season. I spoke about him quite a lot. It offers you something a little bit different from Rasmus Højlund. And if you're going to get someone who's going to come in and arguably be a backup to Rasmus Højlund, you're not going to go out and get a 30-goal-a-season striker. That ain't happening, is it? To be honest with you. I don't think United have got the money for that, and I don't think that's really what United are looking for. I think we're looking for someone who can either play alongside Højlund maybe in certain games, or he can come in and replace him if you want to rest the Danish international. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But it looks like the XY deal, it feels a bit 50-50 to me, that one. That's just a sort of an estimated guess. I don't think it's definitely going to happen. I don't think it isn't. I think it's doable. I think it makes a lot of sense. But it wouldn't surprise me if someone else came in with a maybe sort of a better offer for the player in terms of his deal, better offer for the agent. We'll have to wait and see. There's loads of comments, so we'll get into some comments. Let me know what you think about JoshuaXY, right? If you've watched a lot of him, if you watched some of him, let me know. Let me know what type of player he is, because obviously we did a little bit of research and stuff, but I've not watched much of him at all, so I'm curious to the people who have. William Morgan, I think we talk about Southgate, says he's just working his way through the midfield options from the worst to the best. I've edited that because it's the morning. Trent was so bad, he got to play twice. SI Renity says, but we get a win. Talk about Kobbie Mainoo and Conor Gallagher, who looks like he's going to start tonight. Gallagher has a mediocre game, but a couple of tackles makes the pundits touch themselves, and that'll make Southgate feel he justified his poor decision, so he'll pick him again. Sirens says, calling Southgate is clueless is a bit shady on actually clueless people. Okay. Sean Bothard says, at least Southgate is not the talent destroyer Ten Hag is. I think that's a little bit harsh, considering Ten Hag brought Mainoo into the United team, and he's done very well under him. I won't call Mainoo Ten Hag a talent destroyer. Santa Notch is in the chat. Bernardino, Colin Coupledick, Brian Casey, Dorian Wiley, Jacoya Trott, Chris Scott, William Morgan. He says, William Morgan says, these are all saying hello, by the way. Also, Vertigo says, good morning, Jay. Hope it's off to a good start, bud. Thank you. William Morgan says, what's Mainoo even getting out of being with England? Not exactly learn anything from any of the senior midfielders in the squad. Jesus Christ, I don't know if it's the actual Jesus Christ. Says, Dome looking extra shiny, Jay. Also, Chris Scott says that I'm looking shiny. Thank you. I've buffed it up special. for the occasion. Sean Dunn says, love transfer talk. Stephanie Griffith says, 100 likes ASAP, please. People, thank you, Stephanie. She's always on the case when it comes to likes. Yeah, the XY one, we'll keep tabs on it. It's not a sexy transfer, is it? Yeah, I'm not talking about the player himself. I just mean JoshuaXY isn't a one where you go, oh, JoshuaXY, yeah, come on, yeah, that could be happening. It's one of those transfers you go, okay, yeah, if we get him, great. If we don't, it's not the end of the world. Don't get me wrong, people will lose their minds if we don't get him. You will see a meltdown on social media from United fans who've just decided JoshuaXY was the answer to all our problems. But if we're being brutally honest, I don't think it matters that much if we don't get him. If we do get him, okay. It feels very much this one, like if we do get him, you could look at that and go, that's an Ineos type signing. Because it's a signing where there's a release clause that's doable. If you get him in quickly as well, he's a player that you think can fill a role in the squad. It'll make sense. However, you could also, sorry to be Mr. Oh, on the one hand this, but on the other hand that, you could say, well, it's very much a Ten Hag signing. A Dutch player. So it's a bit of both, but yeah, it's one of those where we'll keep an eye on it. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, hopefully, under Ineos, we will have other targets as well. It won't be, well, we missed out on him, so now we're just going to have to scrape around and see if we can get, someone on a free on deadline day. That would be a worrying sort of aspect, if that happens, but I don't think it will. Let's talk about Kobbie Mainoo. Let's get into it. Because there's David Ornstein, who he's just factual, innit? When David Ornstein says something, I don't even think you can say, well, Ornstein is saying, you're just basically saying, this is happening. So he's saying Conor Gallagher set to come into England 11 for final Euro 2024 group game versus Slovenia. Chelsea midfielder expected to replace Trent Alexander-Arnold as Gareth Southgate continues trend of tweaking England team for game 3 of major tournaments. So Trent Alexander-Arnold out, Conor Gallagher in. Now, on the surface, right, let's try and be just slightly reasonable before we get to it. It's not an absolutely unbelievable, horrendous decision. Conor Gallagher has played quite a few times for England recently. He's a midfielder. Trent Alexander-Arnold isn't. Trent Alexander-Arnold didn't do well for England. In fact, he was pretty poor, I felt, in both games. I know there was some sort of talk of almost revisionist history against Serbia. People going, well, actually, he did really well, if you just don't understand. And no, he didn't. I watched the game and I thought he didn't give the ball away loads, but he gave it away enough for it to be, the couple of times he did give it away, it could have been very worrying. So Trent Alexander-Arnold wasn't great against Serbia. Conor Gallagher came on against Serbia. I think he did okay. So it was like, okay, that makes sense. I didn't think Conor Gallagher did well when he came on against Denmark. Again, Trent Alexander-Arnold was poor. Conor Gallagher comes on, runs around a lot. Yeah, lot of energy. I think he got booked as well. And then there was another incident where I think if it had been given as a foul, I think he could have got a second yellow, but he didn't. So let's not, pick on it too much. Pick on him too much for that one. However, for me, when you compare Conor Gallagher to Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield, yeah, I get it. If it was a choice out of them two, I'd go with Conor Gallagher. But it ain't a choice out of them two. Because you've also got Kobbie Mainoo sat there as well, who's had, 4 minutes so far in this tournament, and is the best player for that role in midfield. He just is. Like, he's had, 2 starts for England. He's man of the match in one of them. I don't understand how Gareth Southgate can't see what almost anyone that has watched Kobbie Mainoo can see. Yeah, Conor Gallagher runs around a lot. He's got loads of energy. Great. Kobbie Mainoo does that, and he's also brilliant on the ball, can read the game much better, and performs at a high level week in, week out. He was man of the match in the FA Cup final against arguably the best midfield in the world. I know it's arguable because some people go, well, Jay, come on, Real Madrid is better, whatever. But it's up there. When you're going up against the likes of Rodri and Kevin De Bruyne and you're bossing the game and scoring and winning. Conor Gallagher played against City and lost when he played in that, was it the semi-final? He played in the final against Liverpool, innit, at Wembley and lost. Kobbie Mainoo bossed that game, won it. His full debut for England, it was mint. Even when he came on against Brazil, if you remember, I think he had almost as many passes as Conor Gallagher in 20 minutes as Conor Gallagher had in 75. Didn't give the ball away once. He's just a better player. I don't understand how this is a debate. And I don't understand why Gareth Southgate is persisting with this idea of maybe trying someone else other than Kobbie Mainoo in a role that Kobbie Mainoo would be perfect for. I think some of this, if I'm trying to sort of second guess Gareth Southgate and think of what his thinking is, might have come from that Iceland game. It was Iceland, wasn't it? Where Mainoo got a little bit of stick from certain quarters in the press, and even getting blamed for Declan Rice having a bad game, which is just ludicrous. Now, I watched that game. Kobbie Mainoo did not have a bad game for starters. He just didn't. He's had better games for England than Conor Gallagher has. He's had better games in the Premier League and in the FA Cup than Conor Gallagher has, and he's a better player, and he would slot right into that role. Now, you might go, well, he's not ready yet. He's only 19. What's that got to do with him? He's shown he's ready. He really has shown he's ready. He's shown he's ready for Manchester United. He's been one of Manchester United's best players since he arrived into the team as an 18-year-old. And he's shown he's ready for England because he's put in very good performances for England, especially in his full debut when he was player of the match. If that doesn't show you you're ready for England, what does? What more can you do than be the best player on the pitch when you're playing for England? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't think Conor Gallagher has done enough during this tournament to go, you have to start him. He just hasn't. And we've not seen anything of Kobbie Mainoo. We saw, 4 minutes against Serbia, which is just meaningless, really. And it's not like he did anything wrong in those 4 minutes. He kept hold of the ball, whatever. But that's not an opportunity. And Gareth Southgate has got a midfielder here who I think genuinely could help England win this tournament. He could. But if you're going to persist with this experiment where it's either playing a right back there or playing an inferior midfielder in that role, you're going to get found out. You're going to get found out very quickly, because I think Gareth Southgate he's done a decent job as England manager. You look at it, he got to the final of the Euros, last time he was in the Euros. He got to the quarterfinals of the World Cup, last time he was in the World Cup. His first World Cup, he got to the semi-finals. That's a decent record at tournaments for a Manchester United manager, for an England manager. Listen, I'm old enough to remember when Graham Taylor didn't qualify in 1994. I remember Roy Hodgson getting beat by Iceland in a tournament. Steve McLaren not qualifying in 2008, one of the worst performances, not qualifying when you've got world-class players in almost every single position. Just look at the Champions League final that season. So we've had some shockers as England managers, including Fabio Capello. Let's not forget, we absolutely dominated in qualifying for the 2010 World Cup. Got to that World Cup and just didn't put in one good performance throughout the entire tournament and ended up getting battered by Germany. So Gareth Southgate's record, it's very good, but when you sort of scratch beneath the surface, in a lot of those tournaments, he's had a pretty easy run. In the World Cup in 2018, the group was very easy. Was it Panama and Tunisia? Lost to Belgium. Then went through, you played Colombia. Colombia didn't have Rodriguez, don't forget as well. He was injured, got through them on penalties. Then you have Sweden, who were beatable. He does that, though. You can't knock a manager for beating teams. It's what you're there to do. And then you have Croatia, who he was found out against. You go into the Euros as well. Germany weren't great. That was probably the biggest side we had to face. But again, he got to the final. Can't knock it, but it was there for the taking. Falls short. France in the last World Cup infuriated me. His decisions there, I just didn't get it. We get to the quarterfinals against France. You take off Saka, who's absolutely tearing the French defence apart. You also bring on Raheem Sterling, who's not trained all week because he's had to go back to England because his house has been burgled. And then you give Marcus Rashford, who's your joint top scorer, 5 minutes in a must-win game. Just pathetic decisions all around. So I'm not Gareth Southgate's biggest critic at times, and I'm not his biggest fan either. And I think sometimes he can be found wanting, but overall his record's good. But on this one, there's no justification for it for me. Even if he'd have gone with Adam Wharton, even if he'd have gone, I'm going to go with Adam Wharton. I've seen enough in training or whatever. Adam Wharton, because Adam Wharton, from what I gather, from what I've seen, he's a very good midfielder. He is. I don't think he's as good as Kobbie Mainoo, I just don't. And for me, Kobbie Mainoo's done enough in an England shirt and in a Manchester United shirt to start for England. But I could understand it more if it was Adam Wharton than I can with Conor Gallagher. I just don't see it with Conor Gallagher at all. And I tell you who else who doesn't see it. Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes did a Instagram post. Now, when we talk about Conor Gallagher, we talk about the same things come up. His energy, his enthusiasm. You know, he covers every blade of grass. He does all this sort of stuff. And Paul Scholes did an Instagram post where he sort of said, you know, look, all right. It was, he said, why are we obsessed? Why are we obsessed with energy when we should be obsessed with the brain? Now, he might deny that, or someone say, well, it's not necessarily about Conor Gallagher and Kobbie Mainoo. It obviously is, and everyone's picked up on that. Because there's this thing about energy. It's all about energy, it's all about effort, it's all about this. If you've got someone who can read the game the way Kobbie Mainoo can, who can pick out passes the way he can, and who can also get on the end of things as well. Let's not forget, we saw that in the FA Cup final. I don't get it. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let me know what you think, because I'm a massive Kobbie Mainoo fan. So I'm always going to think Kobbie Mainoo should start for England. And I think that, now you may disagree. So let me know. Let me know why you do disagree. If you think that it should be Conor Gallagher, because it is going to be him, because Ornstein said so. And I know what I hear from you. Alex says, don't stand on the fence, Jay. Sorry, yeah. Also, Ben goes, right, Wayne Rooney as England manager would be wild. Ha 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 ha. BMW Racing 1974 says, I, as an Irishman, am happy with Kobbie not playing for England, no offence, in case he gets injured. Listen, I get that. If you're not an England fan, if you're from a different country, you just don't support England, and you're a United fan, then yeah, you probably don't want Kobbie Mainoo to play, if that's your sort of opinion about his injuries. I want him to play. A, I'm an England fan. I'm not a massive England fan, but I want England to win the tournament more than anyone else. But B, the reason as well I want him to start is I think he deserves it. And C, he'll want to play. He'll want to play in this tournament. And I actually think it could help him. I don't think it would be a hindrance. But some people have said to me on Twitter, because I was like, I can't believe he's not starting, whatever. People going, oh, well, he'll get blamed if England lose. I think England can beat Slovenia tonight. And I think Kobbie Mainoo plays in that game. He helps us beat Slovenia. I think we can even beat Slovenia with Conor Gallagher in the team. That doesn't mean he should be starting ahead of Kobbie Mainoo. I think if England play Kobbie Mainoo tonight, we beat Slovenia, end of. We just do. And then actually, Kobbie Mainoo might get some of the praise he deserves. And if he carries on playing him in the tournament, I think he'll got a good chance of winning that tournament. So I'm not quite buying into the idea that Kobbie Mainoo will get on the blame if things go wrong, because I know it happened against Anderson, but I think he could actually be a real big player for England. He's just not being given the opportunity. 4 minutes so far is pathetic. Tariq Kanda says, it's yet again super negative. Wharton Mainoo with Jude at cam and Gordon at left wing. You pick Jude next to Rice with Foden at 10 and Gordon at left wing. Gallagher is a nothing type of player. Joe Corcoran says, add enough of Foden as well. If he can't do it on the left, then bin him off and give someone a chance. Ava94 says, Scholes post a picture of Mainoo in his story during last England game. It's definitely about Mainoo. Yeah, Paul Scholes must recognise the skills. Everyone can recognise the skills that Kobbie Mainoo's got. But Paul Scholes knows better than anyone what it's like to play for Manchester United. And also, I don't even think Paul Scholes was playing for Manchester United as an 18-year-old. So he's got to be impressed with his kid. I know it's different standards and levels at United when Scholes was coming through before anyone gets on me. But to come into that Manchester United midfield, Joe always makes a point. Joe Smith says, it's so rare for a teenager to come into the central midfield of Manchester United. I can't remember when was the last time that happened. Like, genuinely. Norman Whiteside, and even he was a striker, I think, to start with. Like, genuine, when was the last time a teenager came through the ranks and started week in, week out for Manchester United? Because Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes and Beckham and them lot didn't. Giggs was a winger, but he did. But to actually start in the centre of midfield for Manchester United as an 18-year-old, and not just start, but shine as well. Let's have it right. He's been absolutely phenomenal this season, Kobbie Mainoo. This season for Manchester United has been massively underwhelming. And if it wasn't for the FA Cup, which is a big thing, winning the FA Cup, it would have been a complete and utter disaster. But Kobbie Mainoo has been one of the biggest plus points you can look at. He's just been phenomenal. I mean, the game against Arsenal in pre-season, he was mint. The game against Everton at Goodison, again, just one of those performances where you go, where's this kid been? We've actually missed him more than I thought we would. And then you go fast forward to the FA Cup final. I mean, I got emotional when he scored that goal. I don't really get emotional at football matches unless you count anger and frustration as an emotion lately. But I did. It was just fantastic to see. He's such a good player, and anyone who thinks he's not ready is just talking rubbish, right? If you're good enough, you're old enough. I think was it Matt Busby that said that, and he knew a thing or two about football, didn't he? Kobbie Mainoo can come into this team and he can smash at the Euros. Let's not forget there was an 18-year-old Scouser that came into an England team in 2004 that did all right, if everyone remembers Wayne Rooney. So I don't think you can just say, oh, well, he's not ready. He's shown he's ready. He should be playing. Ben goes right, says Januzaj. I think wingers are slightly different. Matthew Smith says was Cleverly 18, was he? A teenager? He might have been. I can't really quite remember. Arithan Ramesh says Mainoo is unreal. Verti Joe says Mainoo said in an interview he started as a forward but hated waiting to receive the ball, so dropped into midfield and just loves getting the ball. Let's hit that like button, people. Morning Jay, says Glenn F. I'm not Irish, and even though I hope England win, as long as they are keeping Mainoo fit for us and stays injury free. Great. Yeah, just on another thing as well with England, I think Luke Shaw is not available for the Slovenia game. I think he has started training, I read somewhere earlier, with the main group, but he's not going to be available for the Slovenia game. It's a big gamble in it. by him as well. Not just Gareth Southgate. It's a massive gamble by Luke Shaw going to this tournament. I don't blame him. I'll be honest with you. I don't blame players for wanting to go to a tournament. I think that as a footballer, your career is short. Your opportunities to play major tournaments are few and far between. And I always go back to the Theo Walcott one. I remember Theo Walcott went to the World Cup in which World Cup was it? It was under Sven won it. Was it 2006 or whatever? I've just been told by producer Joe as well. Tom Clever was in his 20s when he broke into the Manchester United first team. So I think Mainoo's the first teenager for decades. But yeah, Theo Walcott went to the World Cup, didn't he, in 2006, was it perhaps? 17 years old. Didn't play. And I remember people making the argument, he'll get lots of other chances. He'll play in other tournaments. He never played in a World Cup. Ever. I don't think he never kicked a ball in a World Cup. It's a short career. Your opportunities at international tournaments are few and far between. That's why I sympathise with players, even non-United players, when they don't get picked. That's why I wasn't a big fan of Neil Maupay trolling James Maddison, because I think it's a bit, you know what I mean, it's a bit shady, especially when you're not that good yourself. So yeah, I don't blame Luke Shaw. I didn't blame Marcus Rashford when he wanted to wait for his operation at last Euros and play for England. I get it. Players are always going to want to play for their country at major tournaments unless you're Ben White. So I understand that. But sometimes you might need a manager to go, look, he's not fit enough or whatever. It's not going to take him. We'll wait and see, though. It could work out. He took Harry Maguire, didn't he, last time to the Euros, and Harry Maguire missed the first couple of games and then came in and smashed it. I think he was in team of the tournament, player of the match against Germany, and scored his penalty in the final. So if Luke Shaw plays a part in any success of England, Southgate will look like a genius. But in a minute, he looks like a moron because he's not playing Kobbie Mainoo. Loads of people in the chat. Brian Casey says, Shaw won't even be ready for pre-season. No idea why he's at the Euros. We'll have to wait and see. Mick Holohan says, Shaw is a waste of a spot in the squad. No way he will be sharp enough. Jesus Christ says, to be honest, I really do hope Gareth wins this Euros and stays with England. Keep him away from United. I agree with that. David Pearson says, why take Kobbie? It's just ridiculous. Hit the like for Jay. I like that. Let's talk something about Roy Keane here. Because there's this story I saw, I've not watched the clip from the overlap, I believe it's from the overlap, and it talks about, it's Roy Keane talking about when he left Manchester United, and they had this meeting, this 10-minute Man United meeting that saw his contract terminated. And I think Keane made it easy for the club, because when it became clear the club didn't want him, he just sort of said, right, we're done, okay, forget it, yeah, we'll do it. And I think he says his solicitor was saying to him, no, you shouldn't just walk away from this. And Keane was of the opinion, look, if they're going to treat me like this and they don't want me, then I'm just going to leave. Fine, I'll sign whatever, and just, you can terminate my contract. And he speaks a little bit more about this and about how, you should treat players better. Now, I'll be honest with you, I think the treatment of Roy Keane is one of the most disgraceful episodes in United's history, in terms of the way the club acted and the way even Fergie, who I love and revere, acted. I thought it was ridiculously out of order. Like, Roy Keane is the definition of the term legend. The guy just never had a bad game for United. He gave his all for United. He was immense as a player, as a captain, as a leader. He set the standards for others in training and on the pitch for the games. And you can't overstate how important a player Roy Keane was for Manchester United. And to have a 10-minute meeting where you basically terminating his contract because of an interview he gave for MUTV, ostensibly anyway, I don't think it was just about that, is ridiculous. It is. Roy Keane should have been treated much better than he was. I don't care what he said in that interview. I don't give a toss. Even if he said something that's bang out of order, then you discipline him and move on. You don't get rid of him. And I don't think it was that. I think they looked at him and thought, he's maybe not the player he was. We've got to get out of jail free card here in terms of moving him on. But it still annoys me that the way that Keane was treated. He should have been treated much, much better. And I understand why he comes across as still being a bit angry and bitter towards Sir Alex Ferguson, because Roy Keane gave his all for the club for 13 years and was treated that way. It's not on really. So I'm going to watch the full clip and see what he's got to say. But I do sympathise massively with Roy Keane, and it's a shame that him and Fergie haven't made up, because when you see like ex-players and the manager chatting and appearing together, and Roy Keane was basically Sir Alex Ferguson on the football pitch. He was the one that did Sir Alex Ferguson sort of bidding, and he was his mouthpiece and he's his leader, and he's the one that everything went through. And to see them going so long and just not speaking, and obviously there being that animosity, it's sad. I remember when there was there was a little bit of back and forth. And I remember Ian Wright was giggling about it when Roy Keane was there. And I just thought, it's sad to see, man. I wish they could make up. I really do. But I understand it from Roy Keane's point of view, why he can still feel angry. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling angry about being treated that way when you gave so much for Manchester United. Brian Casey says, the fact the club wrote a statement for him and got the length of time he was the club wrong is disgraceful. Complete lack of respect. Phil Berry says, agree, Jay, the treatment was an effing disgrace. Akash K says, Fergie was ruthless. He was. But there's a time when, you know, you need to be ruthless. There's a time when you need to be a little bit more understanding. Adam says, watch the pod, Jay, there's more to it. I will, I'm going to watch it. I'm just going off the Mirror story there, so I'll watch it and see what's said there, and then we can maybe do another bit on it, because I wouldn't mind getting into it. Roy Keane, probably one of my favourite ex-United players. Just a quick one on Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and it's going to be quick, because the best we could find was this in-depth story here on the Manchester Evening News. Wan-Bissaka exit. Manchester United defender Aaron Wan-Bissaka has agreed personal terms ahead of a move to Galatasaray this summer. The right-back is set to earn 55k a week at the Turkish side and has reportedly shook hands with Galatasaray, and that aspect of the deal is done according to reports. Not much into that, is there? Really? Just, oh yeah, you know, he's going to Galatasaray. Yeah, he's shook hands. Sound. No sources. No, a little bit, you know, underwhelming the way they've gone with it, considering that Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a well-known big player for Manchester United, who plays a lot of football for Manchester United. You're not talking about a squad player who never gets a game. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one that's how it's being covered by the Manchester Evening News, and it's one to keep an eye on. I don't think it's gospel there that he's done. He's going to Galatasaray. I will say this: I don't want him to go. Yeah. Oh, there you go. I think this is from Caught Offside. There's a bit more to it here. Man United and Galatasaray to hold further defender talks later this week. I'm so annoyed with this. I am. We don't need to mess with the right-back spot. You've got Diogo Dalot as your first choice, and you've got Wan-Bissaka as your backup, and it works. God, no one watched the FA Cup final. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, because I'm just going to start ranting again. We don't need that, do we? We're going to be back later on. Me and Joe Smith haven't done a podcast together this week, which is a disgrace, so we're going to sort that out. We're going to be back at 4 o'clock on a live, so we'll have a chat. I don't know what we're going to talk about. In fact, get involved and chat in the comments and let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll find something. We always do, me and him. Big thank you to everyone who commented, everyone who watched, everyone who's hit like. Make sure if you're not doing already, you need to subscribe as well. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Don't forget as well, this summer we're going over to the US. We're going to be covering the tour again, so you're going to have loads of content coming from the tour too. Plus, if you're not doing already, go and check out our membership section. We've got extra content on there. I've been Jay Moy. This has been the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.